Welcome to big mistake number 7. And so you've fought your way through the first big mistakes, and how many of those have you recognised that you're doing, and have you been leaving a bit of a gap in between them? Have you been doing some awareness and acceptance stuff?
Well, I bet they have.
Only you know the answer to that, yes?
Yeah.
So here we are at big mistake number 7, which is an interesting one really, because it absolutely happened to me, and it sort of smacked me in the face like a bolt of lightning coming down going, when are you going to get it? Because big mistake number 7 is not actually having a clue what love really is. And oh my gosh, I got to 47 years old and I've got 3 children and 3 grandchildren, and you'd have thought that when somebody said to me, write down what love means to you, that I'd be able to write something down. And I was absolutely came into the awareness that actually I didn't really have an idea of what love was. I definitely related it to sex. Definitely related it to sex, but I was a bit embarrassed to write that down, so I didn't write that down. So I think I wrote something quite pathetic down. But it is something we do at our events. We ask people to write down, what does love mean to you? You know.
Yeah, and I think that when I think back, because you introduced me to this really. You said to me, when we first got together, I didn't ever have any clue what love is in the past, and now I believe I do. And I look back at my past and I think that I did what is very common for people, and that is to say, to think they do have a clue what love is, and to say, well, love's about what you get, or love's about somebody loving you, love's about doing things for people, and it's like, that's not what love is. It took me to really meet you before I really to really understand what love really is. I mean, it's amazing. And me too, I got to my late 40s before I really understood it. And it is the biggest mistake. I mean, we say that in all the mistakes, but it's the thing that people are most confused about.
Absolutely.
And most have no clue about us.
So just think about it. What does it mean to you? Think about if you've got children, for example. Do you love your children? If you've got parents, then do you love your parents? Do they love you? Do your children love you? With your partner, you go, you say to them, I love you, but what does that mean? In fact, we actually, when we first got together, sort of said, I'm not going to say that anymore, because actually when most people say the words, I love you, they're really going, do you love me? That's what they're really doing. So, you'd have to be putting your hand up and going, yeah, maybe I do that. Could I come into the awareness as what I'm actually wanting is I'm desiring to have a feeling of love in my body from other people. So family are key, whether it's your offspring, your siblings, or your parents, you're desiring them to love you. We get masses of people come here in massive pain because they're not connected to their parents very well, or they don't feel when they were a child they were loved. So then what the challenge is they're trying again, that whole trying thing's coming up, they're trying to get somebody to love them, which as a model of love is absolutely flawed. I have to say, it's completely flawed. And why would we say that? Because the thing is, if I was now reliant on Nikki to love me, if I was, which I've now learned that's not a very clever thing to do, if I was, is it possible that if I do something that she doesn't like and we're not in a good connection, that she could withhold or withdraw that love and use it as a weapon against me? Well, I absolutely guarantee you that I would say at least 95% of the population are doing that. You see, and that's where there's so much pain. We had that beautiful girl come, recently, who said, look, this man's decided not to be with me after a few years, and I feel like I've got a broken heart. Well,
that's not possible.
I said, look, what is a broken heart? Has it come out and got broken?
All she'd done was get a dependency on this particular person to be with her, and she called that love. And of course that's just not it. And the other thing about it, of course, is somebody says it to you, then that doesn't mean it either.
Definitely not.
Because it's, words are cheap, as they say. And, a lot of people will say, but I love you, And that's, might sound a bit harsh to say it, but it's normally to, please forgive me for something I've done because I love you.
I mean, how many times do we see people come and they're very, very disconnected to the point where you're going, we sometimes say to people, look, you've told us all the terrible things that they do to you, and we ask one great question. It's a great question. It's like, Well, why would you be with that person then?
Yes.
Why would you be with someone that just does everything you've described to you? Why would you spend time with that person, you know? Why would you do that to you? And they go, oh, but I love him, or I love her. You know, that's rubbish. That is not what love is. You know, we had that crazy singer-songwriter one.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
Yes. Yeah. He was telling us about his relationship, and he was saying how much they fell out, how disconnected they were, how long they spend not speaking, all the, you know, the usual things. And he said to me, you know, but surely if there's no pain, it isn't love. And I just couldn't help myself. I said, only in the weird world of you songwriters, because how many songs do you hear when they go, you know, he did be wrong, but I love him. You know, I mean, it's just, you know, amazing.
Yeah,
when
I mean,
you think of our model of it.
We both love music, and we spent a lot of time searching for lyrics in a song that are really real. They've got love, and they've got real love in them, and they've got real truth in them. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it's hard to find. They're very hard to find. So what we actually say is, when you're saying I love you, but you are dependent on getting love externally, this is not what we call real love. You know, this is not real. It's you're perceiving it in your head, and you're going, okay, I'm dependent on somebody loving me, and if they don't love me, I'm not going to feel good. Well, what's the truth? The truth is that, you know, we are full of love. You know, in our own being, we're just full of it. And it's all really just a case of coming into the awareness that you're needy of love. You see, if you can come into that awareness, then you can change everything. Absolutely everything, because I learned you don't need to be dependent on anybody loving you to feel the feeling of love in your body. But you see, also the biggest step is step 2 is acceptance. It's acceptance. Well, you know, I see so many parents come here, and they are so attached to their children that it's unhealthy. You know, and that they maybe are not in a great relationship, and one of them is like more attached to the child or children than they are
getting their love from them.
Yeah, they're sucking love out of these children, which isn't what love is. And of course they then teach, sadly, the child that this is what love is, when it clearly isn't. So, you know, learn to be a great parent in a loving way is also another interesting subject, which we haven't got time to deal with now, but you know, from the point here is knowing what love really is, you know. And one of the, you know, if you really want to step up and really want to learn what love is, then you need to learn the subject of unconditional love. I mean, we all talk, you know, broadly about unconditional love. Well, what does that mean? That means to love this person with no conditions. Well, I absolutely guarantee you very few people on the planet are experiencing or living a life where they just love the other person exactly as they are. They're just like looking at them, going, seeing everything that's wrong, yeah, and then moaning, complaining, telling all their friends, well, this, but then they say, but I love them, I can't leave them, I love them, you know. This is complete rubbish, and this is definitely not what love is. So it is our big mistake number 7, to not know what love really is. And I have to say that my biggest learning was to, and I encourage everybody to dive into the subject of love. Get in there, don't look it up in the dictionary. The dictionary definition of love is complete rubbish, really. It's not what real love is. In fact, it's argued that love is one of our most ancient words. Yeah, it, you know, obviously man, you know, however many thousands of years ago, you know, didn't actually talk. You know, we've learned to communicate through speech, but love was one of the first words that we put to the feeling, that feeling we have in our body when we feel loving. So yeah, it's been misconstrued like many things down the ages as to what it really is. So I encourage everybody to, you know, dive into the subject of love. What is it all about, really?
Yeah, and again, it always comes back to the same thing. We do sound like a long-playing record. We say that it comes back to yourself, because, you know, there's a quite an overused term which people talk about loving yourself. Well, what does that mean? It means about having love in your body, feeling the feeling of love. Love is a state, and it's not you know, so many people, so much misunderstanding about love, because love is talked about like an emotion, which is like a on-off thing, you know, which is like a feel this, you know. A lot of people, when they meet somebody, they go, oh my, I've fallen in love with them. Well, in actual fact, what they have probably done is got into a different state which is what do you always say? It's, like a hormonal state. Yeah, it's like you've got into a different state. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. We're not making that wrong. We're just saying that be aware that that may not be what love really is. What it is, it's an emotional reaction to somebody else's state as well, an emotion as well. And what we do is we kind of say to ourselves, okay, so this is, I'm falling in love with this person, so then we get into a relationship. And so, of course, another big subject, which is probably big mistake number 8, but we haven't talked about that yet, is that what we tend to do is get into intimacy, call that whatever you like, sex, making love, whatever you call it. We get into that far too early. Now, that might be a bit shocking to some people, because what are you doing? Are you telling us we're wrong to have intimacy? But of course, what that does is confuses us between those feelings of falling in love or being attracted physically or being lustful or whatever words you want to use, with the being in a loving space with another human being. So it's like what Tony said, it's not about I love you, it's about can I be in love inside of myself. And then what we talk about that sharing that with another human being. Now, of course, the great thing then is if you are in a great space, you're in a loving space, which we've been talking about a lot on all these videos, and then you're sharing that with another human being, the likelihood of you making all the other mistakes and the likelihood of you being in disconnection and not having a great intimacy between you is so remote, because you found out, and as Tony said, you've dived into the subject of love. And the other thing that happens is that what we tend to do is we tend to look at somebody's behaviour and we say to ourselves, we don't like that behaviour. And as Tony said, we need to unconditionally have love for another human being. Now, that doesn't always mean to say that we're going to stay in that relationship, because if that behaviour is not the kind of behaviour that we think is loving behaviour, we might decide not to be in that situation. So that is just to make that absolutely clear. But when you're both in a loving state and you've learned about love and you feel it in your body, which is an ongoing feeling rather than just a whoosh thing that you get every so often, and it's not about intimacy and sex and everything, it's about a loving state, then what you can do is you can share it, and the likelihood of all the other things happening are remote. And then you can really start to learn. These are the hidden benefits that we talked about, the real hidden benefits of being in that loving state and having unconditional love for each other, which means that you are really accepting each other exactly as you are. The benefits is that you are going to be able to have love making that is completely different than any kind of what you've been calling love in the past. That's not love. That's a sexual experience, a heightened hormonal experience. That's not love either. Because a lot of problems that people come to us with is also sexual problems.
Absolutely.
Again, back to the same reasons, all the mistakes we talked about, same reason why intimacy does not work in the same way as you'd want it to.
So just to recap then, so if you were to have to write down what does love mean to you, and get yourself into the awareness of your model of what love really is, and then go, okay, so how's that working for me? Is this bringing love into my life? Or is it in fact seem like it's something that's elusive, or I'm always chasing it, or I'm always like running a bit low on it, so I'm always needing some more of it? If your model's anything like that, and obviously you can write down some beautiful words. I've seen many people write down beautiful things, but they're not necessarily living those beautiful things, and then come to some sort of level of acceptance that, okay, is it possible that my model of love isn't at all what love is? Because if you can get yourself to that point, I'm not saying you've not got a great model, but there's a more than 95% chance that you haven't. And if you're not having a great experience in an intimate relationship, I absolutely guarantee you're in the 95%, not the 4 or 5% who are experiencing it. So it's really, can I get in myself into the awareness? This is such, as I said, hit me like a lightning bolt, going, oh my gosh, I have no clue what really love is. And when I found out what that's really about, it was like took my life to a whole new level, which is really what we're about sharing with you, really. So there we are, the end of the 7 big mistakes, and I trust that you could tick them all off. Now perhaps you going, oh my gosh, we actually had a couple here the other day we were coaching privately, and You know, we've gone to tick off the 7 big mistakes. They're making them all. So you may well be saying, do you know what, I make all of those mistakes. So, you know, remember, one of those big mistakes is keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So if you have come into the awareness that, oh my gosh, even if you're doing one of those and you're not getting a great result, you know, you can dive into that one and go, okay, what do I need to know more about this so I don't have to experience, you know, maybe the pain or the suffering or the struggle of life that I'm doing, because, you know, Tony and Nikki basically have got the answers. So yeah, let us be your guides, really.
Yes, and you know, the thought that comes up for me absolutely is, if you are sitting there, and you know, we really do trust that you've got something useful to really think about. If you're sitting there and you're really wanting some help with either one or all of the big mistakes that you've been making, and some more help on more clarity, you know, more clarity on what, you know, what your awareness and the acceptance and maybe some of the choices that you're making, you know, we're here. We've got some great coaches, we've got events that we do, other products. You know, we just really want to help you get from wherever you are, which has caused you to say, you know, put your hand up and say, you know, give me some more information, to wherever you want to be.
Yeah, so remember, our outcome was to bring you into the 5 steps of love. If you watch that one first, remember, our outcome from these 7 big mistakes was to get you into some awareness. Yeah, it's the place where everything starts to change when you become aware. Yeah, you're not going to be that blinkered horse again. So once you become aware, then, oh my gosh. But of course, big step number 2 is always to become accepting that it's not wrong that you've done it like this. You're not wrong. No. It's okay. Maybe you were meant to have all the experiences you've had up to today to get to this very step in your life where you go, okay, I can do something different now. Yeah, it doesn't have to be like it has been in the past for you ever again, really. And obviously we know that we both got to that point. And of course the other 3 steps, you know, that's what we're about, helping you to integrate, you know, because that's why the tips don't work. You know, the only real way this is going to work is if you integrate new change, new things into your life where you're going, oh my gosh, that feels fantastic. Every minute of my life feels fantastic. Well, to integrate that into your life is a journey. It's not a tip. You know, we could sit here and give you a load of tips, say don't do this, do this, but you know what? It doesn't work. It really doesn't work.
So maybe you are ready for that next step. Do you remember that next step to 5 steps of love is to make a decision? One of our great mentors of ours says that it's in the moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. And so, you know, maybe you're ready to make a decision right now and to make some commitment as well. And then, you know, please, we can help you with that momentum. Yeah. So, fantastic.
Yeah, so we trust, as we say, you got something great from it. It's been great to share these recordings with you and to share our knowledge and wisdom of how it all worked for us. So remember, get it from the experts. We've been there. We always say we spent 90 odd years getting it wrong, and now at last we know the secrets. So if you want to come share and learn those secrets with us, then, you know, we've got our doors open to anybody that says, yeah, please show me more. Yeah. So yeah, great. We will see you on another day, either live or on a recording, however it may be. We wish you well on your way. So we'll see you soon.
See you. Bye.